Welcome to the Voicehacks podcast. I'm your host, Mary Z. On the Voicehacks podcast, I'll be talking to some of rock and metal's best singers, coaches, and experts about what goes into the mysterious and amazing sounds we make with our voices. If you like this podcast, please help spread the word by sharing it with your friends. Post our episodes on your Facebook and Instagram, and tag me and my guests. I'm at Metal Mary Z on Instagram. Don't forget to leave the show a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. And of course, follow me on YouTube at Voicehacks by Mary Z. Let's get into it. Hey everyone, thank you so much for coming back to the Voicehacks podcast. It's my total pleasure this week to be sitting down with vocalist Stu Block, coming out of Canada. How you doing today, Stu?
It's warm today, actually. Coming out of Canada, it's actually a warm day. It's only minus 10. It's only minus 10 today. We got through the minus 30s, minus 40s, minus 50s a few weeks ago. But yeah, no, we're good. We're good. We're going for walks and snowball fights. It's fun. Thanks for having me. This is
Canadian
awesome.
standards of warmth. Well, thank you so much for being on, because you're such a tremendous and diverse vocalist. You have so many things you can do. I felt like I saw you do all of them at once at Hyperspace with Into Eternity. I was really blown away by all of the different vocal things that you were doing in one set. I mean, in that band, it seems like you're really free to explore whatever area of vocals you want, but you went for it. I mean, you did everything from like high operatic singing to your amazing harsh vocals, different types of harsh vocals. Were you always this kind of experimental with as a vocalist, or did it take time for you to get to that point? What led to you doing so many things?
A lot of different, like growing up, a lot of like household influences as well, right? So when I grew up with everything from Reba McEntire to just Beethoven, and Phil Collins, and so there was a lot of melody. Like I grew up with like tons and tons of melody, and then becoming angsty teenager, you start finding that heavier music. So found heavy music mixed, and because I always loved melody, I just could never leave singing. I always loved singing, but I always loved Corpse Grinder. You know what I mean? And it was just like, I love Deicide, and I loved and then I got into like the In Flames, and I was like, whoa, there's melody in there too, like in that Swedish melodic death metal, as it were. But so there was so many different escape routes for me. But I've always my playlist and my CD collection has always been like, I was always the weirdo. Like I was just like, like, it's like, oh man, like, you have your metalheads over and it's like, oh man, you got all the bangers. And then there's Phil Collins comes out, or like, I love Frank Sinatra, and I loved all the crooners, I love the Rat Pack and stuff like that. So, big crooner fan and big blues fan. So then like, Badlands, and then Kansas, and all that kind of stuff were in the collection as well. So there was just lots of different things happening with me. So I was just an emotionally confused child anyway. So I was just like, why not just throw the music in there too? So
that's where we all end up, though.
Yeah,
it's some kind of art.
It's weird when in heavy metal, like when I first started doing heavy metal in Vancouver. It was like, you're metal, or it's like either death metal or power metal or whatever. Like people weren't mixing a lot of different genres in metal yet.
Yeah.
And so when we were doing it, like I was just like, well, I wanted to be in a metal band, but I also wanted melody. So anyway, first band was my band, or Omega Crom, and we were doing cleans and death vocals and stuff like that. But like it was like fantasy kind of stuff, and so started doing that, and a lot of people got it, a lot of people didn't, and but I always kind of kept true to that feel, and that where it wasn't like it wasn't just an elitist attitude, but I felt like, oh great, I entered into a genre where it was quite very elitist, and it was just like,
yes.
So I was like, okay, so now I'm just making my life a lot harder. I was just like, why am I doing this right now? And so, but then I did start seeing the changes and people starting accepting it more. And I think deep down, when you did see that only grindcore or die guy in the back, you know what I mean? Like only pig vocals, bro. That's it.
No clean singing.
No cleans, only like inhales, only squeaks, man. Like, that's all we're into.
But you can do them at least.
yeah. But I definitely, and I was doing some grindcore stuff too, but like even those guys, trust me, you get a few beers into them and you're like with them jamming and you put on a little bit of Kansas and you put on that stuff, they're like, ooh. Like they're into it, right? And so I think that there was just like this whole like my crew is this, so I got to be this kind of back in the day. But now it's now it's so awesome. It's so different. Like you got amazing bands like Ginger, like just doing everything they can to like just push the limits and stuff like that. And you've got like Mastodon, you got like all these different bands that have just really, really pushed some limits. And even growing up with Devin Townsend, like when I was a Vancouver boy, like, the Strapping Young Lad, it was like, whoa, he's
the best.
Really, pushing limits, and everything Devi does is like mind blowing and it's just innovative, right? And so I think it opened it up. It kind of got rid of that elephant in the room where you got to be part of this certain clan. And I think that's what makes heavy metal and rock music really, and even hip hop now, like even all music, literally all music now is becoming far more interesting because there's more and more people having their own individual platforms too. Like they're finding ways of selling direct. And who is that guy, Tom McDonald or whatever, that guy who's like got like a -- pop song. He's all independent, like no labels and all that kind of stuff. He's pretty controversial kind of guy, but like he's got his brand or whatever. But what I'm trying to say is it's really going to try and push that forward for more people finding that independent platform and being able to do it. And it's your fans at the end of the day. Like you built your social media, you built the sound, you did what you did. You can find them and they're going to be there for you. You don't need somebody else you do need help. You need help to push yourself along the way nowadays. But now if you can sell direct to 10,000 fans and you have a loyal fan base of 10,000 fans and they're all buying a t-shirt, man. Yeah. Like that is, you can quit your job almost, like, start doing that for a living. And you don't have to be having millions of fans, all maybe every fifth one buying a t-shirt or something like that or whatever. If you have your really, really loyal brand and fan base, and I think that's what social media and Twitch and Patreon and Instagram and all that, the connection is there and people connect to people. And like there's some people that connect to people. I'm like, that guy just like, there's this guy, actually, he's amazing. He's a really cool dude and he's not a musician, but all he does, and he started off by doing singing videos, but he lives here in Saskatchewan and he's got this massive following, but he's the guy that has his own vodka and he puts stuff in vodka and lets it sit for a month, that guy, and let's see what happens. He's really like wacky guy or whatever, but it just goes to show that there's a platform for everybody as long as you can hone your fan base and be able to well, you got to keep it going, right? You have to keep that and that's what we were talking about earlier. It's like keeping that content. So content is something that you're really selling and perpetuating to sell your t-shirts and to sell your services or whatever, right? So what I'm finding now that music is, and people have to really accept it unless you're a certain level or whatever, but most of us that are the mid-level to low or just hitting that upper level, we have to be able to keep pushing out content and keeping it fresh in order to sell our services or our t-shirts or our go to my web store. Like for me, for instance, I've got my little t-shirt on today. You know what I mean? Like I've got my heavy metal.
That's so badass. That's your Stu Block. That's your branding. I love that. It's kind of like a little branding thing, and I've got another guy with holding a microphone and stuff like that. So I do a lot of my I do a nice percentage towards local animal rescue and all that kind of stuff too. So cool. Yeah. So, but it's also like I know people that like me, they love animals, and I know people that
like me. They like all different kinds of genres of music and different singing and stuff like that. And so as long as I'm giving that to them, and which I'm quickly understanding, because now that I just recently am stepping up my game and putting up a little bit more content.
Yes.
That's what the algorithm wants, and people like it or not, especially coming from where I'm coming from is an old school mentality, is where we thought we could just put out an album every 2 years and do a couple of tours and we're relevant, right? Well, it doesn't happen that way anymore. That's not how it works. So you got to put the music out to perpetuate, and people will still support you, but the TV is gone. So the new subscription is us and Disney Plus and Netflix and all that kind of stuff. And if you're part of a service, or you're selling something that is part of a platform that isn't quite all like Instagram and Facebook, where you have to give kind of free content to sell your other products, that's what has to happen, baby. Like, that's what you got to do.
That's how it works.
And people have to accept it. And it was tough for me to accept for a while, coming from the old, like the new school, like the younger kids. It's just part of it's just how it is.
That's just all they've known.
That's all they've ever known. But talking from my perspective, it's a huge transition. It's a huge transition, and it's a cool one. It's a fun one, and I think it keeps us on his toes. And I think it's a fun experience. As I start learning more about Pro Tools, and as I start learning more about live streaming and more about all the technical aspects of it, it's like you really appreciate when I look at setups like yours, and I appreciate when I look at setups like, Grant Truesdell, and I appreciate all these guys and girls that you look at their setups and it's like, damn. And like, there's my closet in the background. You know what I mean? It's like,
I'm just going to tell you, this setup here is brand new. I've gone through several renditions.
I bet. Well, I bet. And like, we were talking about before, like, I'm just starting this journey. So like, this room's going to get revamped, and I'm really am starting this new journey. But I appreciate the people that I've surrounded myself, and I appreciate you having me on, and I appreciate you talking with me. And I would love to pick your brain and maybe ask you some questions.
And you're on this journey now, and the music industry's changed on both of our journeys. Because actually, I think we were possibly like signed to Century Media around the same time.
Yeah, I think so.
And so, which was also its own really awkward time, because that was like the in-between era where we went from the analog to the digital. Like, Spotify wasn't even just barely. So the type of record contracts from then are different than they would be now.
Oh, and absolutely.
Content creation wasn't the thing then that it is now. And because
I'm sure when they're signing people now, they're like, this is how much they're probably in the contracts. There's X amount of content that you have to be putting out and stuff.
I liked, though, I saw you do a couple things recently, and this is something that I think that is a real positive, because you also said some really positive things about the kind of music world we're living in now. And I agree with you. I do feel like it's overwhelmingly more positive than negative, even though it's hard for some of us. All these old songs and singing covers and things, it's a whole different world now. Everyone loves that now.
Yeah.
And you a couple things I saw you do. You did like a Foreigner, and you did the Eye of the Tiger, a Survivor.
The Glass Tiger, or whatever it is. Yeah,
it was so good. So I'm like, wow, and the thing is like all these young kids, all they're doing is, that was good content. You're such a great singer, you can just bust out things, but that's new to someone who's 20 years old. They don't know those songs.
Man, and that's really neat. Yeah, like, I mean, I'm a big fan of all that stuff, and I was just chilling, and I was just like, man, I just busted out a couple things, and I thought it was just fun, but I'm definitely going to be doing a lot more of that stuff, and I'm going to be doing more like studio based kind of takes and all that kind of stuff, so just ramping that stuff up. But it's really cool. And of course, like, there's going to be people that are like, maybe not check out those bands because of me, but maybe start getting into that kind of stuff, or maybe it'll just take them down a rabbit hole, whatever. But there's a lot of younger people that are into a lot of older bands. It's super cool because they're so like accessible. All this stuff is so accessible. Like, Spotify is insane. Like, when you if it starts to get to know you, it's like suggesting a lot of crazy stuff. So going back, being part of this, understanding, or have a basic understanding of the algorithm and kind of how it works, and understanding that if this is how it works, this is how you have to play the game, and so those types of things. And the other thing to say, just for the benefit of you and I, who are still very young pups, and we are
Yes, we are. Damn it.
Sexy young pups that are going to be around a long time. For us, it's really cool because when I look at the content now, it's not just kids. It's not just kids. It's everybody.
Yes.
There's room. Like I always thought, like my mentality was, oh, well, TikTok's just for kids, right?
No.
And I recently, not recently, but last year, I was like, well, no, it really isn't. So it grew. At the beginning, it was something that the kids were into, but I think all these platforms grow into something that everybody at any age can take, grasp onto and use and
Yes.
enjoy and either enjoy just personally or make a living doing something on it, you know what I mean, and that kind of stuff. So it's not just limited to age. So that's what gives me even more drive and hope for content creation for people such as us for the future, kind of stuff. So
Yeah, but I agree with you. I actually feel like overall in a trend, as a result of so many things changing. So people's attitudes towards covers have changed because young kids on YouTube make entire channels just about covers. And also their generation is very devoid, I hate to say it, of robust rock music. So they're looking back at the 20th century constantly, and all they're doing, I mean, I'm telling you, I've got like 20-year-old students and they're doing 40-year-old music all the time, And I'm like, this is a first. Your mom and dad's music used to not be the cool music, but once you hit like 1986, things don't sound old timey anymore.
You got it. Yeah, there's a certain threshold there.
Yes. Yeah, there's
absolutely.
A production threshold, right? Right.
And that's where, totally the production industrial revolution, as it were, the musical, the studio industrial revolution, as it were. There was a huge change with how things were heard. And things are still relevant to this day. When you listen to a song, it's wow,
they are. And
still holds true.
People will be like, I need to learn this Alice in Chains song. Like these kids that I have that didn't grow up with it, they seen it on YouTube. They see Lane Staley doing his runs and things, and they don't have anyone like that in their generation,
Right.
So they're like, so it's really crazy. But every time I do covers or something, I get young kids who don't even know their covers, and then they're like blown away by it. They think it's like this amazing music. So I think it's a great time for people that do know things from the past, because actually that is the thing now, and like you said, it's democratized in a way that there is something for everybody out there, and if people don't like your content, they just can unfollow you.
Oh, and there's always another creator, right? So that's there's something for everybody. And I always hate to, like, it's a weird correlation, but like because there's a platform for everybody, sometimes there's people that make it famous that most likely, don't really have much talent. You know what I mean? They may not have really any talent at all, but what their talent was finding that brand and finding that niche of crowd that will be captivated by them, and they do it, right? And so it even pisses me off when people say, "Oh, that person how did they have so many followers?" They don't. Well, I'll tell you what happened was that they found what was working. And how can you shit on that parade? Like you can't. And it's like that's why I think it's a beautiful thing that there's this massive landscape and every color you could imagine is playing the game. And it's like, and it's and everyone's doing different things, and it's super cool. Like if you're into music, you're into cats, you're into cooking, you're into whatever. Like social media, there's something for everybody. But when it comes to music, it's a really neat landscape because music has opened up there's so many musicians that people that live in doing that you would have never seen ever doing stuff in Tibet and stuff like that. And they're just like, you've never ever seen this stuff before. And it's like, they've got these channels that are massive and they're in a village or something like that playing.
Oh yeah.
And they're just beautiful throat singers, and you can, I follow these other throat singers, it's just amazing hearing what the indigenous throat singers can do. And it's just, there's, like I said, even in our landscape, which is music, which is one spectrum of the color amongst social media, it's a really cool thing to see how many different people and and talents can be showcased. It's and then you see that, and it inspires people, man. It inspires people to, oh, I'm going to put that in my music, or I'm going to put that there, I'm going to put that here, I'm going to, and all that kind of stuff. And then it's like you got really, and as long as they're piecing it together and transitions are good, that's a big deal. Like you can just plop a whole bunch of stuff together and whatever, right? But transitioning is a big thing. But as long as you're a musician, like if you really know songwriting and you have your brand and your sound, the sky is the limit. And I always thought that I just have to do heavy metal, I've just got to be the metal guy, and all that kind of stuff. And I've realized that I've done a lot of sessions for a lot of non-metal sessions. I've been doing some pop sessions. I've been doing, I collaborated with a rapper recently.
Sweet.
Too. So there's a lot of different things that people are into and that they're influenced by. And so I just want to, I do want people to know that a lot of people, it's just that high singer guy, you know what I mean?
You are so much more than that. That's why I'm so happy to hear you talking about the internet is open, because if anyone who's listening that's seen you live, especially with Into Eternity, where you were really, I felt like, oh well, this is what this guy should be doing all the time. It's just opens up, you were able to flex on everything you could do, and it was
sometimes a little spastic, I would say. Sometimes I got to reel myself in a bit.
But
I'm not gonna lie.
But I think a lot of people, just why does everybody fall over themselves with Devin Townsend as well? It's again, it's very impressive, the array of things, Yeah, and why should you, as a creator, that means you'll make more content instead of less, right? So you should. I'm glad to hear that you're gonna do more singing.
All sorts of stuff. Yeah, I really am. I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to the new journey, and I think it'll be cool.
Let's talk a little bit more about you as a vocalist. So, it looked for a little while like you were maybe going to do some live shows with Annihilator. Is that still a thing? And if it is, are you doing a little bit different approach to prepare for, a band like you didn't write for?
Right. Yeah. Well, kind of. Yeah. Well, I guess I've prepared for some bands that I haven't written for, and it'll be kind of this. It is the same process. So I'm just kind of diving into the past singers and all that kind of stuff. But Jeff is super cool. He's like, well, I hired you for you, Stu, so I want you to do it. You know what I mean? Be you. Don't try to mimic anybody or anything like that. And so that's one of the things. But some of the songs, my voice just naturally lays in that thrashy kind of, Randy Rampage kind of feel,
Nice.
Yeah. So it's definitely been cool digging into the old first 3 albums I'm digging into right now. So I'm basically learning all 3 albums. As far as touring, it's just there was some opportunities, but I think Jeff made some statements. It's tough. It's really tough. It's expensive. Things where the offers just aren't, they aren't enough right now to warrant, being able to go out and do a machine like Annihilator as well. You know what I mean? So that machine run is a little bit more expensive to run, so to fire it up, it's going to take a little bit of extra fuel, and fuel's expensive. And but it's a tough thing and it's not just Annihilator, it's tons of bands that have had to stop tours recently.
Everyone's talking about this.
So it's nuts. So I'm not talking about anything new, but so that's one of the main, just the state of the industry, hoping to get it back to a place where there's more money to go around for mid-level, because all the money's really going to the big guys right now, right? That's what they're paying for. So yeah.
I felt like there was this massive rush too after the pandemic of every show and festival that was supposed to happen to be made up as soon as possible. And I think I've read somewhere that there was going to be 75% fewer festivals, at least in North America, this year than last year.
Yeah, everything's just triple the price. So why you can't fire these things up? So so it's really the waiting game for a lot of bands right now. So what they're doing is content creation and new music. They're creating new albums and singles and putting out exclusive merch, stuff like that. So it's and then with there's a lot of things happening in the world right now that it's unsettling for a lot of people, and a lot of bands are affected by it too, because they live in certain regions of the world where they're very affected by it. So that's got to be very difficult. There's a lot of very famous Eastern European bands, and so there's,
Yes.
and so a lot of buckling down right now and stuff like that. So it's just, my heart absolutely goes out for anybody that's affected by crap going on right now. But so I think, hopefully this year things start leveling out, and hopefully by maybe 2024 things are kind of starting to get back to where they should be. But it's a long process. Like, it's a big wound to heal. Like, there's a lot of things. There's just a multitude of, we could sit and talk about it, but it's a multitude of different things happening that just cause fans to not be able to see their favorite bands right now. And it sucks, man. It sucks.
It's unprecedented. I don't ever remember a time in the music industry in my lifetime where we had like this much stuff affecting. But the weird upside is that we have the internet now. So
which still keeps us together, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's not like, the concerts are amazing, but the internet and this is definitely something that is a huge therapy, and it helps a lot of people, especially me. I'm a fan too, right? So when I get to see interviews and all that kind of stuff, and I know it makes me feel good, oh, well, I didn't get to see them this year, but they're coming. It gives you hope. So it's really cool. But it's gonna come back. It'll come back. It'll all be good. But I can't wait. Annihilator. We have been talking. So let's get back to that. Circling back. Let's get back to that. So basically, working on the first 3 albums, there's a lot of different things that are planned. It's just when to initiate them, really. It's that's all I can say.
And they're like UK based too, so it's going to be, or at least now, right?
So he's in the UK now. He's got a beautiful studio out there, and I believe he just did a visit back to Canada a few months back, and he was like, he's like, oh, maybe he was missing it a little bit and stuff like that. But he's got a great setup out there, and he's keeping busy. And Wild Jeff, he's doing his thing.
That's great though. But I really am happy to hear that in the interim you're exploring this stuff, because again, as such a diverse vocalist as yourself, you have a lot to offer as just even a performer online. And it is crazy, but there's another Canadian YouTuber, this kid that I interview, Nick Nocturnal. I guess he's not that much of a kid anymore. He's grown up a little bit. He was really young when he started, though. I was like, so don't you want to tour or anything? And he was just like, no. He's perfectly content to do his entire career, like from his room at his house. And he has a big career doing that.
That's kind of one of the goals. I don't know if I'm going to have a big career, but hey, if I can make it a cool thing that I get satisfaction from, and it brings joy to other people, and I can pay a few bills doing it, I'm happy. I'm good.
Honestly, that's so much more viable. It used to be that a person who wanted to explore a variety of niches, or even concentrate on something like the metal niche, which is not the most profitable niche, as we know, as we all well know, it used to be impossible though, for so I do feel like that this has made it completely possible. Like you said, you can create a brand, you can, even things like affiliate marketing is just so easy for us to do as entertainers now.
Absolutely. That's definitely a cool thing. And like before, we didn't have those things before, it wasn't and available. It's all possible now, it's and like you say, it's all possible in your little studio. It's really cool. It's really, really cool. So I'm absolutely looking forward to the future for that. But I'm really looking forward to doing some live shows with Annihilator. I've been working hard on the tunes. So I think when it does happen, it'll be super fun. Like, it's going to be just a bunch of crazy Canadian goofballs running around, just having fun with thrash. It's just,
when you're preparing for this stuff, and you talked about diving into the first 3 albums, is there a method to that madness? Are you standing up, kind of giving a live practice? How's your approach?
So we have a garage that we don't use as a garage. My wife is a fitness instructor, so we have a big like a gym there, and she's also an amazing musician too.
Cool.
So we do a duo together and stuff like that. So she's like more of a musician than I'll ever be. She's amazing. But anyway, I practice. So we have a little PA that we set up, And so I set up a couple little speakers and my microphone, and I just give her. And my neighbors love it. Like they're like, I like, because we've been here long enough that we do. So every
Oh.
summer we like, because they know that we're the musicians on the corner, like when we first
feel
moved
you.
into the, yeah, so when we first moved into the neighborhood, I'm like, I mowing the lawn and my like tattoos and stuff. I'm like, but it turned out that we ended up knowing a lot of the people in the neighborhood. So, and they were all like
Ah.
rock fans, and they're all like, either my wife is a school teacher. So like there was a couple of extra school teachers, and they all love metal and rock and roll, and they're all just cool people. So we're just super blessed.
Wow.
We're
Yeah.
super blessed to be in an area where they're really, really awesome. So I warn them, I send the texts out. I'm like, I'm practicing tonight. So I go in there and I practice for a good couple hours. But yeah, my approach is definitely standing up, going full voice. I listen to the stuff, obviously just audibly. I just listen to it like for like the song that I'm working on for a couple days, and then just in my car, blah blah blah. And then after about 10 12 listens or whatever, I'll go into I'll start doing it full voice. And it's been coming quick. Jeff's music is like, there's some crazy, like there's a lot of guitar stuff going on, and like it's different. Like Annihilator stuff, especially the older stuff, like there's a lot of like the changes and the way it's written. There's definitely some slight proggy feels going in there. It's really cool. It's very interesting. But I map out the pattern, and then I just and listen to the tune, and then you get it, and then just go full voice and sweating and everything.
When you're talking about doing this in the garage, you got a little PA? Are you putting music?
So I set up.
Through?
You got it. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. I probably mumbled that.
That's okay.
That's okay. So I basically, so I set up a little PA, and I pump the music through, and sing. And I have a little monitor, and I don't need a ton of volume or anything like that.
Okay.
But it's not like crazy big PA or anything like that. Just, but yeah, it's just, I just go full voice, and I just get to own it and get to be confident with it, and so I just, ditch the lyrics, and then, and that's after, it usually takes me a couple, 4 days to just kind of own a song. And
That is awesome. And do you have any sort of warm-ups or exercises you do when you go into a practice session like that?
Not really. I'd like to hum. Like I'll do some humming. Maybe I'll have a steamy shower before, and do some humming. But that was one of my main things, even on tours. Like even the steamy shower and some humming, and then when I get out, I'll just do some check the ranges. The highs, the mids, and the lows. Don't go too hard because I don't want to overdo it. And then honestly, then just go for it. I usually can feel my voice throughout the day to know if there's something we know our voice, and it's, and you can feel if something's going on. And so I generally do some checks, and if all of those things check out, then 99% of the time it's a great show. It's all good. Yeah.
That's awesome. So then when you're rehearsing at home, you're just using a regular like PA monitor. I'm assuming on tour you probably use in-ears. Do you like that?
Yes.
Or not?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. So it depends on the situation. So smaller rooms that have side fills and a bunch of wedges up front, I won't use ears. There's no point. It's going to be pretty decent, and I can hear myself. But when it comes to those bigger stages and like the festival situations, then I start wanting to use ears and stuff like that. So, but no, it was, I'd use ears, and it was great because, we did travel with our own board. There was a lot of time travel with their own board. And so have a pre-mix done already, just tune in a little bit during sound check, and then you're generally pretty good to go. But yeah, no, it's, I did really like the in-ears. It was a blessing. But one thing I did do is a lot of the time, like I'm actually wearing them now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, but I have, so I twisted one out a little bit. So I'd always twist one out just a little bit, because I would have my monitors in front of me. So I would want like some guitars, a little bit of bass, and some vocals in the front wedges.
Okay.
But I would want a mix in my ears. And then as kind of like, just to get some ambient, because we did have ambient mics at one point that were shooting out into the crowd, but it was the same, but not like some certain situations. I just twisted it out just a little bit and get a little bit of more ambient sound coming in. And then foot up. Vibration is a big thing for me too. So like back in the day, I learned vibration and feeling your voice, because there was a lot of into eternity, especially when we first started touring. It was like you didn't have a sound guy. It was load and go. You're playing really, really like low end clubs and stuff like that. And we were opening for a lot of power metal bands that wouldn't really give you a sound check and stuff like that, or and so we just like, okay, just do your business. And we're doing like complex progressive death metal,
Very.
and so we had to learn vibration, feel how I'm feeling when I'm hitting notes and stuff like that. If I can't hear myself, sometimes I play shows with there's like no monitor at all, and like just go for it. And so
yes.
And it's weird to say, but some of those were some of the funnest gigs I ever played, because it's like it freaks you out, but it really keeps you on your toes. But those are some elements from playing those gigs. Those are some elements that I learned how to deal with kind of almost any situation, where if I can't hear myself, foot up on the monitor, getting some vibration, knowing how certain notes feel in my throat, and knowing how they feel when they're not happening. That's something that I experimented with and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Feel of knowing, even though I can't hear myself, but I know, and then the in your head too, like the vibration, and then just knowing when you're just at one. It's just a feeling, and it is that thing. But once you know that feeling, and once you're hitting your diaphragm and you're hitting everything on every level, who needs a monitor?
No, I say this all the time in lessons. I'm like, look, you play metal. There's going to be so many times when you have in-ears. One of my bands, we have the same thing. We have the X32. We got our perfect little mixes. We got the whole thing. But as soon as the crowd fills the room, I can't hear nothing. There's a crowd in there at sound check, right?
Yeah.
So you're doing exactly what I try to teach people to do. It's like, if you can memorize the physical resonance of what you're doing, it'll probably sound good.
Yeah. And generally it does. Like I listen back and it's like, oh, phew. Okay. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, it's not magic.
Hurrah.
Like certain pitches only resonate in a certain spot. And especially with harsh vocals that you don't even need the pitch. If you feel the growl in the right spot, it sounds good.
You feel the tightness, how tight and loose. Yeah, it's just there's things. And it does take years of being able to trial and error as well.
Certainly.
Certain situations really help you do that. But there are certain ways you can train yourself at home. And I'm sure you already train your students to do that, on how to feel. Hit a note wrong, like do it so you can't really hear yourself and hit a note wrong. You know what I mean? And see how it feels, block out all sound and hit wrong notes and record yourself on the outer, you know what I mean? And all that kind of stuff. So that's what I was doing for a little bit, and just learning, because it was just like, this ain't happening. Like I brought the in-ears with into eternity. I scrapped those within 4 days, because it was like, they're not even dialing these things in. Like what's the point? So learning, yes, sister, for sure. Learning your voice and learning how to feel that is a big thing.
Well, you really, I can tell when just seeing you perform how much you have control over that, because you're changing, at least with Into Eternity, which has a lot of room for that. I mean, you're changing a wide variety of styles, and I mean, in order to do that, you're going to have a lot of that feel locked in for each one of them, because they're very different,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, Into Eternity taught me a lot about that that transitioning and the feel aspect, for sure. Yeah.
What about writing your vocals? I mean, how did you start to realize, like, oh my gosh, I have this huge vocal range, multi-octave? I mean, it can get really, like we said, like it can get spastic if we're not careful.
Yeah.
But when you're writing, are you thinking of the different kinds? Do the words come first? How are you putting all that together?
Good question. I'm writing some stuff right now, and just before we came on, and it's funny, I'm in that mentality. So this is a great question. I do really like, so if I'm writing for myself, if it's a piece of music for myself, I always have something in mind. Well, what kind, like, am I writing a heavy metal song? Well, there's a lot of no bounds there, but I do let it, regardless of the genre or what I'm doing, if I'm not working for a client that has given me specific instructions or whatever, but if it's for me, I I let the music speak to me, to be honest. Like
Mm.
I let the music kind of dictate, because sometimes I'll hear, because there's a lot of voices, I do get a lot of that, like, oh, there's confusion, like, oh, should this be a death metal part? But no, you can't. I can hear clean vocals in this heavy part, you know. So there's a lot of letting the music speak to me. And so I do let a piece of music, like instrumentally, like if something is mapped out, you know, if I'm working with someone who's composing a piece for me for like my EP recently, like I had a vision, like I want this to, like, one of them was I want it to be a progressive, you know, a heavier progressive death metal song. And I just kind of gave him some examples, and then he gave me this, it was going back and forth for a couple of months, but now he's given me this beautiful piece of music. But the going back and forth helps because you start hearing things as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's certain parts, like I'm not just presented with, here's the totally finished piece of instrumental music. If I'm creating it, it doesn't work that way. I'm working with someone and creating it. So voices pop out to me a few times. So demoing does help. But I do generally, like, not to confuse the question at all, but I do generally, rule of thumb, I try to let the music talk to me first and tell me what it wants, you know, kind of thing. So because I know there's more power, like, honestly, my brain, there's power of function there, there's power of lyricism there's power of melody, there's power of grasping the parts. But the power of the music that has been created is something that I feel is initially deeper. I always feel like it's initially deeper, and I always try to understand it and let it talk to me.
Yeah.
And so if I let it speak to me in a certain way, I can have a conversation with it. I know this is really weird, but then it becomes a symbiotic conversation with this almost entity that you're creating with. And it's a personal relationship. So that's kind of how I look at each piece of music, and the types of voices that come out is through that conversation. So and so I generally, like, don't overthink, like, if it's just a heavy part, I can't rule out any other possibilities. So I have to take like there's one song I've been working on, there's probably like 7 different versions of it, you know what I mean? Like right now there's like, there's a similarity between them, right? But there's like, you'll see things pop out, right? So there's where I've changed it, and like you demoing things and you change things over time. And I'm keeping this stuff because I think it's all worth keeping, because I think that nowadays, especially if we want to start talking about how we release music, people want to hear those other versions. They want to hear, like, just because you put out one song, you can do a different, you know, oh, I didn't do cleans here. This is where I did a death vocal section instead of cleans. And then they can hear that version as well, that kind of thing. So how I'm approaching some of my music right now, and I guess it's like an in the moment thing, is that I'm approaching it where the music is speaking to me. I kind of come up with the style of vocal that I want, make sure the transitioning is good, make sure it's not confusing, and make sure it's not too many vocals. Like I've done, like Time Immemorial by Into Eternity, like I would be stretching it. Like there's probably like 5 different vocals in that one song, where even now I think about it, it's like, I'm lucky that the transitions were good, or else it wouldn't have made sense. So you learn less. It's like, ooh, I lucked out on that one, but going forward, like, let's not know that luck is going to be there all the time. So taking a conscious decision in being at one with the piece that you're creating. Now, speaking from a point of working with someone that hires me, there's a lot of people that give me total freedom. And there's a lot of people that say they have specific things for specific verses. Sure. They want me to say certain words, certain ways, and stuff like that. So being part of an artist is that give and take as well. So like being able to compromise. And so I've been able to do that and compromise with myself in my own art as well, where it's okay, I'm overthinking this, you know, like, let's just, and then having a group of people that can like that you trust, that listen to your stuff and know you and can make real comments, not just, you know, just blow
give
smoke.
You some actual depth of feedback, you know.
Absolutely. So I think those elements are really good. I'm appreciative of all that depth of feedback, but yeah, definitely every song is approached by just me trying to just understand what the music is trying to tell me, and how it makes me feel too. If I feel good, if it makes me feel good, like that's gonna be, if it gives me a feel good feeling, then I think generally I've got an okay, decent intuition, and I'm hoping that it'll make someone else feel good, So yeah.
I think that's great. And I think people listening to this that are trying to figure out, just their own journey of how to write songs and how to write music as a vocalist, listening to your approach, I mean, that's one way to think of it. And it's a really cool way. And I think that, somebody that might actually makes a lot of sense depending on the musician. I think when you're talking to me, I'm like, that makes a lot of sense, actually.
Yeah. Well, no, yeah. Like I think that there's like, I don't know, like if you're strictly writing, like if you're Michael Bublé, you're strictly writing crooner stuff all the time. That's just kind of how you're hardwired, right? But if you're doing stuff that's multi-genre, it's like you really have to put your head in different headspaces and be able to explore those different headspaces and be able to put yourself in different hats. Yes, I can absolutely put myself in the hat of, you tell me what to do, I will do it. That's fine. I if someone is paying me good money to do that, that's their art and that's their vision. So I don't compromise that. But if they're like, this is how much freedom you have, so it really depends on the situation. But when I create my own art, I've been taking my sweet ass time doing it. I know.
Good.
And like, but it's something that I want is going to outlive me. And so I just want it to, right. Like I don't want it
it's a permanent recording, like,
so it's like, I just want it to be good. And so I've got a lot of stuff and a lot of songs that I want to get out there, but it's going to take a while. I do want to release my first EP at least by the end of this year, but, we'll see how it goes.
That's what I was going to say. Speaking of circling back around, you said for my EP, and I was like, so we have a solo EP in the works.
Yeah. Like I want to do like single and then EP. So drop a single and then EP.
Good
and
for you.
Drop some nice, simple couple of pieces of simple merch with each release, and nice and easy. I was going to do the crowdfunding thing, but I really I'm getting quite good. Like I'm really enjoying doing the home recording thing. And I have a lot of great friends. And, I've been talking to a really awesome producer right now that I've worked with in the past. And we're super excited to work on it together. And so, yeah, I think it'll be fun. We're just taking our time. And I
can't wait for that. I am stoked. I want to hear the Stu Block EP.
It's going to be different. It's going to be different. It's not going to be kind of like, you're going to hear what you would expect in certain areas, but there's going to be stuff that I think you wouldn't expect totally. So
I love when singers do solo releases. I loved James LaBrie's solo. I loved Warrell Dane's solo. I loved John Arch.
Yes.
What a great solo thing, even though that one's really obscure.
Todd LaTorres, he's just put out one too. So Todd's good.
Every time they do a solo, it's not that I didn't like them with their bands. I that's why I wanted to listen to their solo album. But when vocalists write their solo album, for some reason I feel like it's always better because it's more tailored to you, quite frankly. And I feel like, and not that compromising with our bandmates is a bad thing, but it's just, it can never be 100% like customized your voice. You're always going to work with these other writers kind of. And if it's just your solo thing, I feel like every time a vocalist does that, you get a chance to really sparkle and shine where,
Yeah. And it's your thing. So if it fails, it's on you. If it's like no one likes it, then
right.
Well, that's on me. Next.
Exactly. There's no stress.
No one else to blame but yourself. But I think it'll be it's gonna be fun record. I think it'll be like a fun EP too. Like I love the emotional roller coaster aspect of music. So that's kind of my feel, is just let's try and do like a nice little emotional roller coaster EP. And I think it'll be fun anyway.
So where can people follow you this year to kind of watch out for some of this stuff, some of your new content, some of your solo material? Where should they be following you online?
Yeah. So, I've got my Facebook page, my Stu Block Facebook page. So you can find my fan page just looking up Stu Block. So it's there. And then I've got my Instagram. So it's Stu Block Official. So you can follow me on Instagram. I'm going to be doing separate content, I think, for Facebook and Instagram. And then I just did TikTok. Yay. So I just came on to TikTok.
Yes,
and so it's
follow
Stu
him
Block.
on TikTok.
Yeah. So I'm going to try and do something every second or third day there. Going to try and do different material, throw different things on each platform. So if you give me a follow on each one, you're going to kind of get something different on each one. I'm going to start doing some more live streams and stuff like that.
Are you ever interested, like the live streams? Are you talking about Twitch or something?
Yeah. So I want to start getting into perhaps doing that, doing a Twitch account. Not quite yet, but definitely just getting out there more, talking to my fans, so using my Instagram live, using my Facebook live, just to interact a lot more. And then maybe doing some, I was thinking of actually doing some vocal coaching as well, because I've got a lot of people asking for that too. So
I was going to say, do you teach vocal lessons?
I don't. I'm not a teacher, so I'm very upfront. Like I'm absolutely not as rank as you. You're so awesome. Like you're really just a super pro, super pro. So I don't think I'd ever be like at your level. But if there's someone out there that wants to just talk vocals, that I can listen to them sing. There's a lot of I have a lot of life experience through touring and stuff like that. So more coaching. I'm not really a teacher, but we can sing together. We can do some stuff, and I'm always into that. And I think that there's been a lot of clients when I'm up front with them saying that, they're like, absolutely, I would love that. So that's like, so
it's
I'm like,
your style. I mean,
I'm not giving lesson plans or anything like that. If you want to come back, we can follow up on what we did before. I'll pre-record the lesson or the coaching session or whatever you want to call it, but just a vocal hang, as it were, you know what I mean?
That's so cool.
With someone that has kind of done his thing and has been out there and kind of has been behind the mic a little bit, and maybe can offer a little bit of advice for somebody one-on-one, so I'm totally down with that.
I know I have students who would be very interested in that. Because, again, I never discourage people from taking vocal coaching in any format from anyone else, really, because the way that you look at it right there might have a lot to offer somebody, and totally different information that someone who has a more, technical approach would offer someone,
Yeah. And I'm not like,
equally valid,
absolutely. And so that's where I was hesitant from doing that, because there's people that are so professional, such as yourself and other I have a lot of, like, there's Ken Tamplin, there's all these guys and girls out there that are just so well schooled and so professional that for me to go on the scene and be like, I'm offering vocal lessons, I'm not, like, it just seems pretentious to me when I'm not a vocal teacher. And people will offer these lessons, and it's like, I've heard a lot of horror stories too.
Yeah, of course.
Like really bad stories. And so I'm always very upfront. If you want to just have a vocal chat and we can sing together and we can talk about your goals and what you're doing and all that kind of stuff. And if I can provide anything that can give any insight and help, absolutely. And I'm not I'm not charging like an arm and a leg. This is like, you know what I mean? Like, we're talking like chill, no, this is like $300,
oh my God,
5 minutes or something like that. It's like very reasonable, like literally super, super reasonable, just to chat and hang and whatever, man. And maybe, if someone, and one of my main things is really just vocal hire. Like, so I do a lot of vocal session work, tons of vocal session work. So that's really where I'm at, is doing that, so
that's so great.
Hire vocals, and I've been writing a couple songs for someone right now, and it's been quite steady. So if there's anybody out there that wants to hire me to do stuff on your album, I'm in, So
yes,
but
you can Stu, because I want to hear him sing more. So
I appreciate and thanks a lot for having me on. This is so sweet.
Thank you so much for being on the show. I really appreciate you. Guys, give Stu a follow. Stu Block, spelled just the regular way it sounds.
STUBLOCK.
BLOCK, right? Nothing complicated. So
no.
Thank you, Stu, so much for being on. That wraps up this episode of the Voice Hacks podcast. Thank you so much for listening, and don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review the show.